Saturday, June 30th, 2018, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today I want to talk about one of the greatest fallacies, economic fallacies, I think, that is propagated by central bankers, PhD economists, Wall Street and the City of London. And that fallacy is that we need stable 2% inflation for an economy to prosper. I went to the Bank of England Museum earlier this week, and it was an interesting experience. And I took one of these from there. Quantitative Easing Explained. Printing more money into our economy to boost spending, right? And you open the page here on the inside of the cover. It says, stable inflation promotes a healthy economy. I kid you not. They actually say that. That's the Bank of England, right? There you go. And so what do they say? Low and stable inflation is crucial to a thriving and prosperous economy. The Bank of England aims to keep inflation at the 2% target set by the government. So there you go. Inflation is good, according to the Bank of England. It promotes a healthy economy. I wonder if these economists have, looked at a little bit at economic history and what's happened in the past, or if they're just propagandists for the fiat money system. Because only in a fiat money system do you need inflation, because we know fiat money is debt. And if you pay off the debt and you don't create inflation, the system collapses, right? So how easy it is to disprove the Bank of England, not only the Bank of England, but the ECB, Mario Draghi, he has this target of 2%. The Fed officially doesn't have a 2% target, but they always talk about it. And the other thing about these targets, these are government measured targets of inflation. So they always underestimate the real debasement of the currency and the real theft of wealth from the public, because inflation is purely a monetary phenomenon. Rising prices are a consequence thereof. Higher oil prices don't cause inflation. They're a consequence of inflation. It's purely monetary phenomenon. So how do we discredit the Bank of England? Well, they say that we need inflation for a healthy economy. So what have I done? Well, I've gone into historical UK inflation rates and calculator, right? And I've looked at a pound in 1800, what it would be worth in 1914, and it would be worth a pound. What does that mean? So a pound in 1914 would buy the same amount of goods, basically, that it would in the 1800s. So there was no inflation. The pound was worth as much as it was 114 years before, right? So no inflation. So now I'll go to Wikipedia and read about economic history of the United Kingdom, right? So, and it says here, and I quote, after becoming one of the most prosperous economic regions in Europe between 1600 and 1700, Britain led the Industrial Revolution and dominated the European and world economy during the 19th century. It was the major innovator in machinery such as steam engines, textile equipment, and tool making. It invented the railway system, built much of the equipment used by other nations. As well, it was a leader in international and domestic banking, entrepreneurship, and trade. It built a global British empire. After 1840, it abandoned mercantilism and practiced free trade with no tariffs or quotas or restrictions. The powerful Royal Navy protected its global holdings with its legal system, while its legal system provided a system for resolving disputes inexpensively. So I'm not defending the British Empire or anything. I'm just talking about the economics, right? And it says, it goes on to say, between 1870 and 1900, economic output per head of population in Britain and Ireland rose by 500%, generating a significant rise in living standards. However, from the late 19th century onwards, Britain experienced a relative economic decline as other nations such as the United States and Germany caught up. In 1870, Britain's output per head was the second highest in the world after Australia. And I would add that Australia was part of the British Empire anyway. By 1914, it was the fourth highest. In 1950, British output per head was still 30% ahead of the 6 founding members of the EEC. But within 50 years, it had been overtaken by many European and several Asian countries. So there you have it. So from 1800 to 1914, no inflation. From 1870 to 1900, economic output per head rose 500%, generating significant rise in living standards. That's healthy, isn't it, Bank of England? 0% inflation for that period, right? So now, let's look at the period from 1914 to 2018. And why that period? Well, because in 1914, that was the last time that British people or people in Britain could go to the bank with their banknotes and redeem it for gold, right? With a pound note, you could get your sovereign. Since then, UK, there's been, the gold standard has been off because of World War I. That was the excuse. It came back in 1926, but only for 5 years, and I still not sure that you could redeem it at the bank. But so now in 2018, we need 109 pounds to get 1 pound worth of goods that we did in 1914, just prior to World War I. So we've had massive inflation, and we all know that the UK is not the top economy in the world anymore. So that completely disproves this rubbish about the fact that we need 2% inflation. We might need it in a fiat money system where, the public becomes more and more indebted, and the public is encouraged just to consume and consume, but it's not a healthy economy. So that's how you disprove it. So what's the solution? Well, the solution, of course, is to go back to sound money, to a gold-backed currency or redeemable currency, just like the UK had from 1800 to 1914. Of course, there was a period there during the Napoleonic Wars of the restriction for about 20 years. You could not redeem gold, but they went back in 1821. So next 100 years almost, it was on a gold standard. And but you might ask, oh, gold is not important anymore. We don't need gold. There's not enough gold. Of course, there is enough gold it just depends on the price. At the Bank of England, I bought this postcard of the vaults at the Bank of England. All the gold they hold there. I think they hold about 5,000 tons, even though only 300 of those are owned by the UK government. The Bank of England themselves don't own that much gold. This is mostly for other foreign governments. And I don't understand why they would want to keep it with the Bank of England anyway. But the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, they've got gold. Why do they keep the gold? It's so such a barbarous relic and useless. Well, because they know that deep down this is money, and if they don't have any, their banknotes, their pieces of paper are worthless, even though they tell us it's backed by government debt. But deep down, and that's the other reason why they need to keep the price of gold under control, the fiat price of gold. In the normal world, in a normal, sane economic world where gold is money, there is no price of gold. There's price of gold versus other goods. There's a ratio, but gold is money. So, but nowadays, of course, in the fiat money system, the paper money has a price. And what they don't want is that paper money to drop too quickly. And that's why they keep that gold, to manipulate the price. So what's the solution? The solution is for people to wake up, to accumulate as much gold as they can, physical gold, physical silver, educate themselves, not buy into their system of living beyond your means. And why do I say that? Well, because by living beyond your means, you're going to have to borrow, and you keep the fiat money system going. If people didn't borrow money, if they just lived within their means, it would be a big step towards, you know, killing this fiat money system, where, you know, the Bank of England actually says that inflation is good, you know, results in a healthy economy, even though we know that it's pure propaganda. Bank of England, look back from 1800 to 1914, no inflation, and this country became, you know, the richest country in the world. But nowadays, it was the China of, you know, it was to the world what China is today. It was, you saw what I read on Wikipedia, right? So there you go. That's how you discredit this rubbish that the Keynesian PhD economists from central banks tell us that we need inflation at 2%. Complete fallacy. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. And I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.